Good evening from Vietnam. Good morning to you, Gary. Thanks a lot for spending your morning to join our program and share your amazing story. And congratulations on the book on behalf of the readers around the world, on behalf of the listener of this show around the world. We want to say thank you for all the amazing things you've been doing. Okay,
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Gary, when was the last time you came to Vietnam?
Wow. It's probably more than 5 years ago, I think, but I still remember it vividly. I went to a fabulous restaurant where they actually threw the food across the room and caught it in a plate, um, which was fun. But I'm a very big fan of Vietnamese food. So I love to eat the spices and the flavors of Vietnamese food is fantastic.
So, if you travel back to this country, you know who to call, right? So, put
Absolutely.
me and my family on the list, and we're gonna make sure that we are here to take you and your family around. Okay.
Thank you.
And our culture is very honored if we can have you to share a little bit about who you are and the work you do. Would you please do that for us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, I had the honor and privilege for 25 years to be the CEO and chairman of WD-40 company, and I know that there are blue and yellow cans with a little red top in Vietnam. And that was a wonderful experience. I was with the company for 35 years, but 25 years as the CEO and chairman. I'm originally from Australia, so I moved to the United States in 1994. Um, and for the last 3 years, since I stepped down from that role, I do a few things. My purpose now is I help leaders build cultures of belonging where love, forgiveness, and learning inspire a happier, more connected world. And why I think that's important is that organizations can create cultures where people go to work every day, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and they go home happy. And happy people create happy families create happy communities create a happy world. And I don't think anyone would argue with me that a little happier world right now would be a good thing. So I think business not only has a responsibility, but has a huge opportunity to make a positive difference in people's lives that then would transcend into a happier world. So now I coach 7 CEOs. I'm on the board of a couple of companies. I speak on culture and the importance of servant leadership around the world. And I haven't A lot of people say, did I retire? I said, no, I didn't retire. I refired. I said, I've done my 25-year apprenticeship in leadership, and now it's time for me to put that to work.
Wow, wow. And that belief had led you to an amazing journey of leading organization, creating leaders that have been, the workforce to become a better place. So I want to know, since at what age you have that idea of, Gary Rich gonna help people to be happier, help leaders to, to create that culture of working where people can find happiness.
Well, I think the big aha moment for me was, and I write about it in my book, my new book, which is called Any Dumbass Can Do It. I write about it in the book in that, in 1997, I was given the opportunity to lead the company, and our goal was to take the brand to the world. And I think from a marketing standpoint, we knew how to do that. What I didn't know how to do was to build a culture in the organization where people could act independently any hour of the day and feel good about it. So I was searching for that answer. And actually, it was 2 years into my role as CEO. I was actually on a Qantas 747 flying from Los Angeles to Sydney. And as you do when you're flying long distances, you take stuff to read. And I was reading, and I read a quote from the Dalai Lama. And the quote was, our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could create an organization where the people's happiness was really important. And then I read another quote from Aristotle, who was born in 384 BC, and he said, "Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work." And I thought, well, those two things really join together. If people are happy and they're enjoying what they're doing, then they're going to do great work. But I still didn't know how to do it. Anyhow, when I got back to San Diego, I was reading something in a local newspaper about a master's degree in leadership at the University of San Diego. And I went to an information session where I heard my mentor, my dear friend, Dr. Ken Blanchard, the guru of servant leadership, talk about this master's degree, which was about getting people in the heart, not just in the head. So here I was, already CEO of a US public company. I went back to school and I did a master's degree in leadership, which was really very focused on, and Ken was one of my professors, which was really very focused on how do you build an organization that's really focused on servant leadership. So it was there that I found the tools. And as you've talked about wisdom a little bit, we were talking before we went live, I think there's a journey to wisdom. You go and I think that starts with forever learning. So what you do when you learn is you gain knowledge. And when you put knowledge to work, you create wisdom. So my path is to be always a forever learner, to be able to gain knowledge. And once you have knowledge and you put it to work, that's when wisdom arrives. So that was my journey.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that beautiful definition. Okay. I want to bring you to that plane, the 74-7 back to Australia, when you read the quote from the Dalai Lama. Okay. I reckon that you probably read a magazine on that plane, right? And there's so many words in there, so many articles in there. And could anything in there, like ignite a curiosity inside of that, Garry, right? Could ignite the thinking, the thought process for him? Why that piece of advice from the great Dalai Lama starting to ignite inside of you?
Because I think it was meant to send me that message of, and it's a very simple message. Our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, it's a very simple message. And if we wake up every day with an intention not to hurt people, but with a positive intention to help them step into the best version of their personal self as a servant leader, not as someone who is a micromanaged, ego-driven leader who really just thinks about what's in it for me, instead of how can I better serve those people I have the privilege to lead. I think that was something that I was meant to read. And it was very, very powerful in that really it was the foundation of what took me to this path of servant leadership.
So curiously to ask you, when you say it was meant for you to read, so it seems like you've been seeking for it for a long time prior to that also. Am I correct?
Well, I think I'll get this saying wrong, but I think there's a saying that says the teacher arrives when the student is ready. And I obviously was seeking out a path at that time on how do I build this culture. That culture, that want to do that was very clear in my mind. So maybe the teacher arrived because the student was ready.
Okay. Was there any role model, anyone in your life prior to that influenced you to have that idea, and then that student was on the quest of seeking for that teacher?
There's probably many. I mean, I write about my mother and my father in the book that I wrote, who obviously had an influence on me. I had people that I had the opportunity to learn from very young in life when I was back in Australia, whether it was working in the local hardware store or the local sports store, whether it was, washing cars or delivering newspapers. So, I think you don't realize what you're learning until you get a chance to reflect on that. And I did a lot of that reflection in my book that I wrote, just the new book that I have, which is full of stories of learning over many years.
Absolutely. We're going to get into that masterpiece that you wrote, okay? And this conversation, we want to talk about wisdom a little bit because your book share a lot of wisdom in there. So we're going to go around the corner before we get into the center, okay? So for if I can travel time with you, Gary, and trace all back when you were really young and you can still remember one piece of wisdom from anyone that can vividly remember at the moment, what was that piece of wisdom and who was the one saying that or sharing that with you?
Well, I think whether you call it wisdom or belief, one of the things that I think is really important that I learned from a lady by the name of Mrs. Peele. And Mrs. Peele was an elderly woman who I used to deliver newspapers to. And every Friday, Mrs. Peele would give me a bag of candy. And what I realized was that I was in Mrs. Peele's connection to the outside world because she wasn't able to get out of her house very much. And, delivering the paper to her every day was something that was a lifeline to her. But what she made me feel was she made me feel like I mattered because I was delivering that paper. So I think the wisdom that I gained from Mrs. Peele was people want to know and feel like they belong, and people want to know and feel like they matter. And I think those two things are foundational when we're building cultures within an organization. Do people feel like they belong, and do people feel like they matter? And it wasn't until many years later when I reflected on Mrs. Peele and me delivering a paper to her every day probably at the age of 12 or 13, that she really did make me feel like what I did mattered to her. And here she was, an elderly lady, probably well into her late 80s, maybe early 90s. But it was her heart that was so generous.
Wow. How could you carry that piece of wisdom for that many long time until today, while you knowing so many people, being in so many conversations differently, and facing with so many different, part of life, right? So why did that matter until now?
Um, because I think it was meaningful. I mean, it was very basic. A 12-year-old boy delivering a newspaper to a 80, 90-year-old woman. It's very basic. I mean, it's really the essence of life. So it's just something that stayed with me.
Throughout this conversation, you make things very simple. You know that, Gary? You mentioned the two quotes from the Dalai Lama, from Aristotle, and then the story from Mrs. Peele. And those are very basic, simple quote about life. How is that related to the book that you wrote?
Well, the whole essence of the book is a lot of people feel that building cultures in organizations is overwhelming. It actually isn't overwhelming. If you know the essence and the ingredients that you need to put in place and you consistently execute upon them, you can build great cultures. In fact, I don't talk about it in the book, but just the other night, again, I was watching one of my most favorite movies, and the movie's Invictus. And I don't know if you've seen that movie or not, but it's the story of Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest leaders ever, and how back in 1995 or 1996, he used the game of rugby to reunite the South African population. And the whole way he did it was he had a common theme that brought people together. And he, I think again, simplistically, he brought the young people of South Africa into the game of rugby, and he sent the number one team of rugby players in South Africa into the countryside to play with these young, uh, African, coloured African young boys, and a lot of them had no shoes,
Mm.
but he sent the professionals to play with them. So, I think again, our job is to make things as simple as we possibly can, so people can understand it.
So the question now is, why didn't people think of that? Why are we trying to complicate things when we can simplify things?
Ego,
Ego.
people's ego gets in the way. I often say that you're in trouble when your ego eats your empathy instead of your empathy eating your ego. And I think that's really important that we think about that. And then I think awareness, I think I don't know if I've shared it with you before, but I have a little notepad here that I carry around. And on the front of my notepad here, I have a little sticker, and it
Ah,
says, "Am I being the person I want to be right now?" And then it says, "So who is that person?" And I have a list of the person I want to be. And I have to keep reminding myself of this because the world will try and make us something that we're not. So my list says, who is that person? It says, I want to be grateful. I want to be caring. I want to be empathetic and reasonable. I want to be a listener. I want to be fact-based. I want to have a balanced opinion. I want to be very curious. I want to be a learner. There's where the connection comes to wisdom. And I want to
mm,
throw sunshine, not a shadow. And I've had that little list on my notebook for I don't know how many years. And there would not be a day goes by that I don't look at that, probably several times, because we have to remind ourselves that who do we want to be our best person without the world dragging us off into a place we don't want to be, because the world will do that.
wow. And tell us, on what occasion did you come up with the idea to write out those reminders for you?
I don't remember the exact time, but I'm guessing it was very much attached to some of the learning I got from my friend Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. And Marshall and I have known each other for many, many years, and he talks about what is meaningful to you. What is is something. Do I feel like I'm doing something meaningful? And I think during that process many years ago, I came up with a list of, these are the things that I want to be. I often say that we are just these basic human beings bumbling our way down this pathway of life. And in the bushes beside the pathway are these thieves, in other words, environments that come in and grab us and take us off our path. So, in one of the thieves may be, greed instead of gratitude. So suddenly this, you know, thief of greed takes us, and
Mm,
and for a little while we may feel good about that, but if we don't remind ourselves that what we want to be is grateful and get back on the path, we won't go to our destiny. We'll get stuck in those areas that are not meaningful to us. So, my challenge to those that are with us today is, who do you want to be?
mm.
And write a list of who that person is, and be brave enough to remind yourself of that every day, because I guarantee that the thieves of the world will steal who you are if you let them.
Wow, wow. I imagine that a lot of us a lot of the listeners who listen to this conversation would want to know exactly who they are and write down that list, right? And it's really hard to write what is that on the list because so many things that we would want to be. And when you first writing that list, there are probably a lot of things you want to write and a lot of things you have to cross it out, right, Gary? So how do we write? How do we know what to write onto that list for us?
What is your heart telling you? That's what you need to do. You need to really dive deeply and ask yourself, what is my heart telling me I want to be? On the list it didn't say I wanted to hate people. No, it says I wanted to care for people. So yeah, start the list. It'll be longer than you want it to be. Look at it often, and then force rank it to the things that are really important to you. And you'll notice my first one is I want gratitude. I want to be grateful. If we wake up every day with a heart of gratitude, it makes us a better self. So, yeah, the list will be the list, and it could change, but start making the list. That's the starting point.
So how did that list help you to become wonderful leader like you are right now?
It reminded me of who I wanted to be, and it also helped me make sure I didn't take my leftovers to people. And what I mean by that is, you could be in a conversation with somebody or in an environment and, you've had a busy meeting or a busy engagement. And next thing is you need to move on to the next person. Well, if that meeting has taken your energy away, what you're doing is you're taking the leftover you to the next person. So you need to take a moment to center yourself, to reposition yourself, because people do not deserve your leftovers. They deserve the full you. The person that you're going to meet with in 10 minutes from now is equally as important as the person you met with 10 minutes before. So don't take your leftovers. Recharge yourself. Take a moment to center yourself, and then take the full plate of you to the next person. And a list like this can help you do that.
Wow. But what if I don't bring the list with you and with me and on a certain day, because I believe that human beings, we want to do something good for somebody else, right? I want to do something good for Gary. Gary wants to do something good for her. So but we all having good days and bad days, and on the bad days I forgot to do that. So how, when I forgot the list also with me, what else can I do to make sure that, well, I'm not gonna bring the leftover to someone else?
Well, if you're practicing this behavior, whether you've got the list with you or not, you're going to remember. So, it's discipline, basically. It's really about stopping, pausing, and thinking. I'm going to walk into this next meeting. Am I the person I want to be right now? Have I let go of anything that could not deliver my best person to the next meeting?
So it means you do a lot of reflection within the day. So not just the morning, not just the evening, but alongside
No,
of the day.
you've got to remind yourself to stop
Uh,
and just go, okay. You know, there's a process that's out of Hawaii. It's called Ho'oponopono, and it's basically a process of awareness where you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you're talking to yourself and you say, I'm sorry for what I did, please forgive myself, thank you for doing that, and I love you. And you're telling yourself that you love yourself. So I think that's important as well.
mm. A part of wisdom for us is to seek for an important things that amazing people out there are doing every day. So on a regular basics on a regular day, Gary, what are important things that you do on a daily?
First thing, wake up in the morning. Because if you don't, So wake up, be grateful, be intentional, take time to enjoy and the season of life that you're in. You know, let go of things that you can't influence and influence things that you can. Um, but don't carry too many rocks in your backpack to weigh you down. I think those are important.
The last piece that you share, don't carry many rocks in our backpacks, right? What can we do to do that?
Take them out, leave them there, leave them on the side of the road. Don't carry the past. Let the past be your learning. Let it create wisdom, and move on. There's, you do this. Take a deep breath. Let it go.
So like just take the rock and leave it down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of rock did you leave beside the past?
Good. There are probably mountains of them, but things that of the past and things that you can't change what you did. You can only change what you're going to do. So that's why I talk about learning moments. You've heard me talk before about we don't make mistakes. We have learning moments. So, learn from the experience, understand the season of life that you're in, learn from it, and move forward.
Gary, my wife and I, we had a bet on when you're gonna write your book. All right, and guess who's winning?
She is.
Unfortunately, I am the one who won. So she said that you're gonna write the book in 2026. I say before it. So all right. So tell us, since when you have that idea of writing the book?
Well, it was really something I wanted to do once I stepped down from my role at WD-40. I wanted to capture those, 25 years of learning and stories and experiences. So that was really the catalyst. I had the time, and I fortunately worked with a very, very a great writing partner. Her name is Martha Finney. So she and I had worked together for about 7 years before this on different articles and literature work that I've done. So she understood my voice, and so we started. It took 2 years to write the book, from when we started to when it published in March this year, and now it's out there, and I hope my hope is that it will help leaders understand the power of servant leadership and how not only can they build great organizations, but they can do that and build great communities and great cultures that send people home happy. So, and then, the final chapter of the book too is really important. It's about not floating into a void, which means, even though you've moved from one season of life to the next one, do you have a clearly defined purpose? And I shared with you at the beginning of our conversation my purpose statement now, which is I help leaders build cultures of belonging where love, forgiveness, and learning inspire a happy, more connected world. And I don't do anything unless it fits that purpose, other than, the great work you do. If we weren't having this conversation today, around what you want to share, I wouldn't be having it because it wouldn't fit my purpose. But it does, because you have a real goal of building great leadership and sharing things. So do you have a clearly defined purpose that helps guide your decisions?
So the book we have. So the audience for the books are whom?
Leaders at every level.
Leaders at every level. Individually, even I'm not leading or manage anyone, I'm leading my life. Is a
Correct.
book for myself also?
Yeah, you'll enjoy the stories, I'm sure.
Uh, because that servant leadership is not new. So I want to know, how do you define servant leadership in this book, Gary?
It's you as the leader doing what you need to do to help those you have the privilege to lead step into the best version of their personal self. Now, whether that be you're leading someone within an organization or within your family. You know, you shared with me earlier about your desire for your children to get great education and to prepare them for life. That's servant leadership. You're doing that as a parent. So, you know, again, you know, servant leadership is about you helping people in any way you can step into the better version of themselves.
And why did you decide to name the book Any Damas Can Do It?
So people to get people's attention. Because I am the dean of dumbassery, and I believe that dumbassery is your superpower. And what I mean by dumbassery is it's the mindset that you don't have all the answers. So dumbassery is not walking into a room believing that you have all the answers. Dumbassery is walking into a room and being able to bring out the answers and the expertise and the wisdom of others, because the best answers come from a whole group of people. And you know, a lot of ego-driven leaders think they have all the answers. Well, they do, and sometimes they're the wrong ones.
True, true. I'm curious about companies because leaders want to do great. I always have that conviction, believe that, you know, like we as human beings, we want to do great for other people, right? And I saw companies are paying a lot of investment initiatives to create a better culture, and things didn't. They need to move, you know, a little bit here and then move a little bit back, and take two steps ahead, one step back. So in here, you say can do it, and do you truly believe that it can do?
Well, I do, because we did. We did do it.
Mm.
But a lot of people think that building great cultures is you know, sprinkling fairy dust on an organization. You can't do that. I have a friend of mine who owns a chain of retail furniture stores out in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. His name is Charlie Maloof. And Charlie says culture is not a microwavable event. It takes a crockpot approach. So what that really means is, you know, you can't take this and microwave it and come up with a, you know, a great outcome. You have to cook it over time. And unfortunately, a lot of leaders think that, you know, that one training course, that one, you know, program is going to change it. No, it doesn't. You have to have the foundations in place, which are, do you have a clearly defined, authentic purpose? And I talk about that in the book. And then, do you have a set of values that protect people and set them free? Are you creating an atmosphere where people know they belong through your actions? And are you creating a organization where people know they matter because of the leadership actions? And it all starts with the leader, because you know that the fish rots from the head. So it has to be the head of the organization that is really committed to doing that. If not, the fish will rot from the head down.
Mm. Wow, it's the first time I heard that. Thank you, Garry, for getting wiser after this conversation. Okay, if I can ask you one chapter in the book that you like best, and I know this question is not fair for you, but if you pick one, you share with us. So, what would that chapter is, and why you picking that chapter?
Well, I think it's the first chapter, which is the title is Are You Okay? And I think the first chapter is about really setting the stage for being a leader that cares about their people. There's another chapter that I love because I talk about my mum. It's chapter 7. It's called, the title is Even the Queen Sits Down to Pee, which is an interesting title, but it's really how I learnt from my mother, who lived till nearly 100 years old. She was 99 years and 9 months old when she passed away. But her learning, her lesson, her wisdom to me was, don't, in Australia, we have a thing called the tall poppy syndrome, which is don't get too big for your boots. Don't think that, you are the corporate royalty. Be someone who is with the people, for the people. And that was something that her wisdom that she shared with me in chapter 7.
Wow. And you mentioned about your father also on the book.
Yeah.
You mentioned maybe you're gonna pick one thing he shared with us, with you, so that our audience we can learn from your
Yeah.
amazing father also. Yes.
Yeah. My father, who was born in 1907, he worked for the same company for 50 years. And he had a principle: a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. So, he was someone that was a man of his word, and he was really about fairness. Um, he used to have a saying: "Let's be factual about this. Let's gather the facts. Let's make sure we understand before we act." So that was something that I learned from him: is gather the facts, make sure you understand. The first thing you want to do may not be the right thing to do. So, there's another, to amplify that, you may have heard of a book called Who Moved My Cheese? So there was a follow on from that called Out of the Maze. And the learning in that book was a great question that I ask myself often: why do I believe what I believe? Why do I believe what I believe? Because sometimes we believe things that aren't true. And, as Brené Brown says, in the absence of facts and data, we make up stories. And those stories become our truth. So be careful what you believe.
Wow. Wow. Now go back to the topic of wisdom you mentioned in the definition is that knowledge, and you make knowledge into action, and that's where wisdom comes from, right? And in your life, how did you accumulate knowledge in your life first?
Oh, every day is a learning day. If you've looked at my sign off for uh, my emails over the years, it says Encoro Imparo, which is a word from Michelangelo that basically means learning I always am. So, once you stop learning, you may as well throw dirt on you because it's over. So be curious. As you heard, one of the attributes of, the person I want to be is being curious. It says, I want to be a learner and I want to be curious. So don't close your mind. Keep your mind open. There's learning every day. I'll ask you a question. When was the last time you did something for the first time?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day. I think that I'll share with you one guy that has changed my life. His name is Ken Hughes, and he is a very famous speaker from Ireland. And he put on a TED Talks a video called Time Bending Challenge for 365 days. And maybe I introduced the two of you. He's amazing, and you are amazing. The two of you will be reading something together. So in that TED Talk, basically, he's challenged the people to do one new thing every day. I'm taking that 365 days to today, 2,267 days already. So we take it more than 365 days, and every day we're trying to do something new for the first time. And well, I think this my life also has a lot of good impact because of the courage to take on his challenge. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course.
And for you, how can you keep that curiosity a little longer like this for that many years, Garry?
It's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. Simple like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
If any of us can have that mentality, then we can do it, right? Anyone can.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Yes.
The last question for you. Two last questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. If I can travel time with you to see that little boy, Gary, at 12, 13 years old when he delivered newspaper for Mrs. Peele. All right. And we stop him and you tell him that you are him in the future, and you say, okay, this is our future going to be, and you have a few things you want to share with him about how your life is in the future, how his life is going to be in the future. So what will you tell him?
It's not about you. It's about the people you serve.
At that age, would he understand?
Well, he probably learnt the lesson from Mrs. Peele, so maybe he would. Whether he believed it be true or not, I don't know.
So he's very, very wise at a very, very young age already himself.
But he learned something from the experience.
All right. So the final question is about one thing that you mentioned many, many times in this conversation is about think. I think that young boy has been carrying with his mind a lot of questions at young age that expand his ability to think over the years. So my wife and I will be on the quest to help people to get wiser through improving their ability to think. And I don't have many chance to have a talk with people like you, Gary. So the question we want to ask, so that the people can bring some practical insights to you is how have you been growing your ability to think?
Well, I think again, it's intentional. Again, it's having that intention of wanting to continue to be a learner, wanting to be curious, all of that stuff. In the coaching I do now, the first stage of my coaching process with the CEOs I coach is about awareness. Are you aware of who you are, and are you happy with that person? And do you know how you are impacting others? And a lot of them don't know how they're impacting others because they've never taken the opportunity to find out. So we talk to their stakeholders and say, hey, how is this person's leadership style either helping you or not helping you? Because the leader has to change, not the person that they're leading.
Like the fish, moving from the head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gary, thank you very much for the opportunity to have this conversation. We learned a lot from this conversation, and I remember the restaurant that you went in Vietnam already. I'm not sure what the name of that one is. This is the place that people cook the local food in here, and they throw the rice things over, and they broke it, right? They break it at the end. So the next time you and your family come to town, I'll take you to the best one, and I know
Thank
where
you.
it is. Okay, my friend, I love you, and I wish you all the best. Wish all our audience will learn a lot from you, and thank you very much for being so kind to join and share your wisdom to us.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.
Bye.